Hello again. In this video we will be discussing OPCUA. We will set up a server, a client, and demonstrate communications between the two. We will also go over licensing pre-licensed models. So let's get started. In the interest of time, I went ahead and created a project. And in this project, I've written a macro that is going to generate data. And we're writing it into a register. And then over here, I've got some bit lamps. And they are addressed to a LW bit. So they will actually enunciate the binary coded decimal value of the output from the macro. And this is just to generate some data so we can show what's going on over the server. So to set up a server, we need to go to the IIoT and Energy tab. Click on the OPC UA Server icon. Want to click Enable the OPC UA Server. A lot of this you probably don't even have to mess with, but something you need to really take note of are the command and status words. We've got our status word here, 11.435, and 0 means the server is stopped and 1 means it's running. The next word is our error code. And of course the third word is our control word or command word. 0 is no action. Write a 1, it tells the server to start, and a 2 would tell the server to stop. Under the user authentication tab, we want to define the user rights. So we want to allow them to browse, read, and write. Here we can set up the security parameters. And so the logon, the usernames and passwords would come from the security setup under your security tab in the project. For this example and simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and make ours password free. Under the Discovery tab, we need to add a URL. And by default, it will use the local host IP address. Now, if you had a remote server, of course, you would want to use those credentials. So we just click OK. Now we come down here to our tags. I do not have another PLC driver set up. If I did, you would see that in this tree right here, and you could add tags based on the PLC registers. So here I'm just going to go ahead and add some new tags. So we're looking at LW bits, starting with register 200 bit 0, and we want it to be readable and writable. We can give the tag a name. I'm going to be original and name it tag 1. So I'm going to go ahead and just add several of these. Now I also have a bit here, LB0, that turns on our macro basically, puts us in auto mode, so I'm going to add that tag. I'm just going to call it auto. And that's basically all there is to getting the data out on the network. I happen to have some objects here on my clipboard, so I'm going to go ahead and paste those in. Here is our command word, LW11437, and we're writing a 1 in that register to start the OPC server. Here, same register, we're writing a 2 to stop the OPC server. Here we have our status word. Will tell us the state of the server. 0 is disconnected and 1 is connected. And here is our error word for our error code. 0 is no errors, 1 or more are errors. So let's go ahead and download our project. Here's my CMT 3090, which by the way is a pre-licensed model. So you see here there's no dialog to install a license. And we're all finished. Now, there's a couple things you may need to know when connecting to your server, depending on what type of client you're using. Now, there's a string here you can use. This would be what's referred to as your endpoint URL. So basically this string would be your endpoint if you implied the IP address of the actual server into that. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this string, and I'm going to paste it in a text document just for the time being. I'm going to go ahead and type our IP address for our server unit in here. And I'm going to copy that. Here is a client program that I've used. So our endpoint URL would go in here. And I click Discover. So here I've got my server pulled up. You can see here that we are connected and no errors. I've got a client application here running, and you can see all our tags. Here's auto and tag 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my macro, and of course you can see the values changing here on the server client. And it's just that simple. So let's move on now and create a client application in EasyBuilder Pro. So for our client, I'm using a MT8050IE. So we want to go ahead and add a new device. And we want to add an OPC UA client. We're doing Ethernet, of course. And we want to set the IP address for our server. And I know it is 0108. And of course, the port. And we're doing no authentication. But if we had a username or password set up, we would want to get that information from our security settings in our other project. Click OK and OK. Now we need to bring in the tags from the server. There's two ways we can do it. We can import a document, or we can do a live import. So we go to the tag manager, and of course it actually found it here, and we want to go ahead and select all our tags. You can see here's all the tags we made. So we're just going to select everything and add those items. Now they're here in our tag database. Of course, our import was successful. So now when we go to create objects, our tags will be here. And so I want to do a toggle switch for our auto mode. And add in some lamps. So I'm just going to copy this and make a few more bit lamps for some other tags. Just a few of them here for demonstration purposes. Alright, so let's go ahead and download our project. And we're all finished. So here I have our server. It is downloaded to my CMT 3090, and I'm displaying it here over VNC Viewer. Here I have my MT 8050IE. And for the video purposes, I'm displaying it through VNC Viewer. So this is the rate that our macro will cycle in milliseconds. So I've got it going pretty slow at about a second there. So we'll go ahead and cycle it on. You can see it was enunciated here. And even though there's a slight comms delay because it goes over the server and then back through VNC Viewer, there's a slight delay in what you actually see, but the data is actually moving faster than that. If you actually saw it on the bit level, you would see that these devices are actually moving data pretty fast. So there's our server and our client communicating via OPC UA. You saw the server communicate with an independent app flawlessly. So that's all there is to this. Now let's move on to licensing unlicensed models. The CMT Gateway series, the CMT G01, G02, and the newer G03 and 4 are pre-licensed, as well as the CMT 3000 series. That would be the CMT 3072, CMT 3090, CMT 3103, and the CMT 3151. Now the CMT SVR 100 and 102 will require an additional license, as well as the CMT HDMI. When you purchase your OPC UA server license from Weintek USA, you will receive a PDF with your pertinent license information. Of course, I have my license serial and my activation code blurred out for the purposes of the video. Once you have your PDF, you need to navigate to this web address, and we need to enter the hardware key of our device. And on CMT devices, you can always get it here on the Easy Access 2.0 tab from your browser. So I'll just copy that and paste it in here. And let me get my activation code and paste it in there. Of course, it's blurred out. Cannot be undone, so yes, activate. Successfully activated. Now we need to download the activation key and do save as, so I know where to find it. I've got a folder here with a bunch of stuff in it I'm using, current projects, and it's called OPCUA.lic. Alright, so it's saved there. Okay, so what I've done here, I've got the project that we used earlier in the video that we downloaded to the CMT 3090. I've converted it to a CMT SVR, and that of course is what our license here is for. So it should operate exactly the same. So we're going to go ahead and do a download. And it found her. There it is, 110. Now, since this is not a pre-licensed unit, you have this option to use an OPC UA license, and it is linked to our unit. So we go ahead and do a search for our license, and here we are in our folder, and there it is, our license file. Click open. And now we just download our project. There, now it's all finished. Now here I have our project running on our CMT SVR, and we're viewing it through CMT Viewer. And I can stop and start the OPC UA server. We've got our macro running in the background. So all that works. Now to make the client work, we need to go ahead and change the IP address on our client app. And that was 110, I believe. Now I can download this or just run a simulation. I think I'll just do an online simulation. and toggle our bid on here. And so there, as you can see, it works the very same way. Thanks for watching, and be sure to come back and see more of our instructional videos.